In the grand arena of life, every man faces his own unique seasons, times of triumph, struggle, growth, and reflection. Your legacy is forged not just by the challenges you face, but by the quality of your thoughts and actions. Welcome to the Legacy Podcast with Ernest Wood, where we explore the path to true happiness, enduring legacy, and becoming the man you're meant to be.
Hey, welcome to the Legacy Podcast with Ernest Wood. Today, it's just me. No guests, but I have some great information for you. And if you do me a little favor, please hit the like and subscribe. I'm going to go over how I changed and how my coaching program, how I help men get to feeling better, having more energy, losing some weight, not having that brain fog, being able to focus, control their moods. A lot of coaches and people, they talk about the five pillars. Most people have somewhere in the 5-pillar area. That's going to be your mental health, physical health, purpose, your purpose, your legacy, your spiritual, and then your relationships. And they're always trying to fix these pillars. And this is where I was screwed up. I was always, when I was trying to fix myself, I was always trying to fix a pillar, right? I thought my emotional self was pretty jacked up. My spiritual, it was in and out, and probably never fantastic. Relationship would go in and out, kind of along the same lines as my emotional. But I always thought I was super good with my physical. But I came to the realization that my physical was jacked up because I didn't have a proper foundation set for my overall physical health. And let me explain what I mean by that. So for me, and maybe you might be the same way, so, think about it. If I had a bad day of sleep, like a horrible night of sleep, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd I didn't like coffee, so I would always drink a Monster. And there for a little while, I was drinking 3 to 4 Monsters a day. Really never thought about the water and being hydrated. So my sleep was off, my hydration was super bad, but I always made a point that I had to get to the gym, and I had to eat enough protein to get muscle, because that was part of the pillar, right? That was my one pillar of physical. I knew that I knew that I was good at it. But I would start fixing stuff in the emotional pillar and all the other pillars. I was working at them. And when stuff was going good, I would be building my little pillar. I'd be out there and sculpting it, making it look all shiny and nice, and putting the walls up. But then as soon as any kind of struggle came, or I'll call it a little earthquake, in our lives, everything ebbs and flows, right? You're going to have some good times, and then all of a sudden that good time is followed by a big old slap of shit on the top of your head. There's a little saying that I use a lot. Sometimes you're the pigeon, sometimes you're the statue. Think about that. That's a pretty good one, because sometimes you're doing the shitting and sometimes you're getting shit on. So that was where I was at. I just could never get everything solid, because what I came up with is my foundation was jacked up. It was horrible. I was trying to fix everything, but my sleep was brutal. My hydration was no good. And then later on down the road, I figured out my breath was all jacked up too. I used to do a lot of mouth breathing. So the 5 things that I went in and went to work on and fixed were sleep, nutrition, hydration, breath, and my exercise and movement. I was already pretty decent at the 2, but the other 3 were messed up. So mm, it wasn't allowing my body to operate efficiently, right? I had super bad mood swings. I was super impatient. I was always bitchy or moany, whiny, complaining. Um, I just never felt like really good or energized. It was just, man, I went through the day. I did the freaking motions, and the only thing I looked forward to was hopefully trying to get a good night of sleep or my lunch break, because that's about the only time I actually got sleep. So, are you maybe similar? Do how's your breathing? How's your hydration? How's your breath work? Are you eating right? Are you doing the right exercises? Getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep? And those are the foundation, man. And that's where you actually can start building those pillars off of. Until those are fixed, you're always going to run into issues. And they all intertwine with each other. It's amazing the way everything works, right? Um, like mouth or not breathing correctly can actually cause you to be dehydrated. I think it's 40%. Let me see what my note says here. Mouth breathing dehydrates 40% or uses 40% more water in your body by mouth breathing than doing your proper breathing. So if you're already not drinking enough water and then you're breathing wrong, you're actually using up more of that little fluid that you do have in there. So when those things aren't working right, and then you're not getting oxygen to your system efficiently. And let's go back. So this is how important breath is, right? Because you can basically go weeks without food. You can go days without water, but you can only go a couple minutes without breath. So obviously, it's pretty freaking important. Excuse me. Most people are, mouth breathing. They chest breathe. They shallow breathe. And that all messes with your brain, your mood, your focus, your energy levels, your stress levels. Um, and 50 to 80% of all people are doing this wrong. So how should you breathe correctly? It should be through the nose, always through the nose, and deep into the belly. Use your diaphragm to expand the belly, and then you use your diaphragm to push it back out. You fill the belly first, then the chest, and then the chest, and then on the way out, you're going to go chest, then belly. And there's a couple little breathing like techniques. I love the Wim Hof breathing. It's one of my favorite absolute things that I do every single morning. I start off my day with it. It can lower anxiety levels. It helps with being more oxygen efficient. And there was a time that I was able to hold my breath for 4 freaking minutes. Not too bad for an older dude that doesn't, I don't train anything besides the Wim Hof breathing on that end of it. But here's a good little breathing technique for you if you'd like to start trying. It's called box breathing. And you just breathe in your nose for 4 seconds, hold for 4, out for 4, and then hold for 4, in for 4, out, or hold in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And just keep doing that. And what it does, it can calm your nervous system, clears your head super fast. And if you're feeling, right now, just try it. Instead of scrolling on, try it real quick. Do 10 of those breaths. 10 of the 4, 4, 4, and 4. I'll give you a second. Yeah, well, you can listen to me while I'm talking. And then there's another little one. It's just like a super quick light switch set. You can sit up nice and tall or stand up nice and tall, kind of like the Superman pose. And you're going to breathe in your nose for a count of 5 or 6 seconds, hold for one, and then out for slightly longer than you did in. And two of those, it's like just an automatic like switch. It's connected to your parasympathetic nervous system, and it automatically lowers your stress level. You can, if you're in a bad mood and you can actually take that time to breathe, you're going to feel it come down, right? So, breath, super, super, super important. And one of the easiest ones to fix. Dr. Andrew Uberman, he calls breathing. He says this: breathing correctly is the fastest, cheapest, and most underutilized tool to improve your energy, mood, focus, and health. And this guy's an absolute genius. Watch some of his stuff on YouTube. You'll learn so much. Um, so if he says that about breathing, right, and you've never even concentrated on your breathing, but you're trying to fix stuff and you're breathing off, doesn't it make sense that it's going to be hard to maintain the other things that you're trying to fix? So step one of the fundamentals, that's the fastest, easiest one, because it's super quick. You just be mindful of it, and you can switch that in a day. You can just start making yourself do breathe through your nose. The next one is another easy one, but again, 75% of people walk around dehydrated. How many people do you know anybody who wakes up and the first thing they do is grab some coffee? They don't drink water. They just grab that coffee and then they get another drink of coffee on their way out, get to work, maybe grab a cup of coffee there because all the buddies at work are drinking coffee. And maybe at lunch you have your first sip of water, and somewhere down the road, right before bed, you might have another little glass of water. Um, your piss is dark yellow. It's stinky. I'm talking from self experience there. I didn't like coffee, but like I said earlier, I drank a lot of Monsters, and I hardly ever had water. And water, just like with the breathing, right? Water can cause fatigue, headaches, brain fog, joint pain, and then cravings. So now we have those breathing things that interact with the hydration, because if you're breathing wrong, you're using the 40% more, right? And now we have hydration. All we have to do is drink. What you want to drink is about half of your body weight in water. And kind of watch the water you drink, because a lot of the water we have nowadays, it's shit. And we're trying to make America healthy again, and they're getting some of those chemicals out of the water, the fluorides. But what I do is I have a nice little filter that I put under the water, my sink, for the cold water, and then I put a dab of sea salt, either the Celtic sea salt or the Baja Gold salt. It has like 91 extra little nutrients, micronutrients, that we usually don't get in the body anymore because our water's processed and ultra filter, and it's all kinds of other crap. They take out all the good stuff and put in this bad shit. Um, so yeah, so again, we have our breathing, which connects to our hydration, and now we're rehydrating. So getting that done first thing in the morning, 10 to 12 ounces of water with a pinch of salt. And then throughout the day, you want to make sure you're getting in enough, like I said, half of your body weight in water. And that's going to get you hydrated. A lot of times, you're not actually tired out, or you're not even hungry. This is one of those little weird things that a lot of our brains, like a large majority of people, think that they're hungry when they're actually thirsty. I guess the sensation is sometimes jacked up in how our body perceives it. And many times you're just not, you're not tired, you're just dried out. Like, water is energy. water's your energy drink. You don't need that stupid ass Gatorade. That stuff is nowadays. There's so much crap in that. That's not even good for you. But you do need some electrolytes. You don't want to just flush your body of purified water all the time or whatever. Have some electrolytes, the salt in there. So the fixing the two simplest things right off the bat, right? So now you did your breath, super easy. Just concentrate, take some time out of every day to fix that. You have your hydration. Drink one half your body weight. Not super hard. So now we're fixing those things. Now those two things are going to be working good. So we can go into exercise or movement. And why does it matter? Same thing as before, right? If you're not moving, then your joints are going to get locked up. Your brain's not going to function right because the blood's not flowing right. You're usually, the mood is not going to be good because you're just feeling lazy. I know when I sit around and I do nothing all day long, the mood gets worse and worse and worse. But when you're out actually up and working, yeah, sometimes work freaking sucks and hard, doing the hard shit sucks. But how do you feel at the end of the day after you got done with a hard, like a full day of like actual work and actual physical doing something? You feel great. And like the entire time you just do it. You just get it done and your body keeps giving you the energy to do more and more. Um, there's a whole lot of studies being done on longevity of life, and exercise is one of the major things. They talk about having muscle mass. The other one is your visceral fat. Your waist should be less than half of your height. If your waist is more than half of your height, then you got to start fixing that. That is a huge one. That they just tons of numbers out there showing that. I mean, 50 to 60% less chance of one of the nasty diseases like the heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and even Alzheimer's. Some of that stuff, there's some correlation there. Another thing is your grip strength. They show that just a 5 kilogram less of grip strength can actually increase your mortality rate by like 17%. And unfortunately, the older we get, we're going to lose some body mass. We're going to lose some muscle mass. But you can keep plugging away, keep moving. So you got to at least get the minimum movement. If you're not getting any movement right now and most of your day is spent behind the computer or sitting on the couch, we got to get in just the minimum movement. And that minimum movement needs to be about 5,600 steps. There's a little report out that it shows that most Americans right now are getting less than 4,500 steps. So we're not getting even to the minimum amount of steps that our body needs to have these little hormone drops, right? There's all kinds of good stuff that happens at 5,600 steps. I want to say there's like a little testosterone drop. There's some cortisol flush. Some oxytocin, even the dopamine, you get the little boost in that. And we're not even getting there. So first thing I would suggest is, or what I do suggest with my guys, if they're not getting in at least that, is get that. So we dial in that, right? And then we're going to up and start getting some muscle mass, because muscle mass it's vital for longevity. So you got to be doing at least 20 to 30 minutes a day. Walk, stretch, lift, bike, hike, whatever, right? And then you want to just make sure you're sitting less. A lot of us, this is a lot of people. They go to the gym first thing in the morning, 6 o'clock. They're there busting ass in the gym. They do it for a full hour. And then they go home, they shower, and then they get in the car and drive an hour to work. They sit, and then they get to work. They sit there for 8 hours, never move, never get up, never do anything besides just sit there. Well, maybe they go to lunch and pee twice. But is that person active, or are they the new, like there's a new little definition, they call them sedimentary actives. And that means that person just goes to the gym and then the rest of the day they sit around and do shit. It's not good, man. You gotta just get up. What I try to do is 20 to 30 minutes of sitting, and then I do a quick lap, do a quick walk, get a sip of water, do something like that. Um, so every day we want to try to get something that gets our heart rate up, gets our body moving. We got to start building some muscle, and that's. I mean, like I said, those are the fundamentals. So now and I keep saying this, we got some breathing, which interacts, and then you have your hydration. Now you have movement, and then the obviously the movement goes a lot with those hydration and the breathing, because a lot of times when we're out of shape, the first movement we get, we just start breathing through our mouth. So let's concentrate while you're doing your exercises, is try to breathe through your nose as much as possible. um, Number 4 is nutrition. Nutrition is, obviously, food is fuel. What you eat becomes your energy, your mood, and even your hormones. Uh, if you eat like shit, you usually feel like shit. Most guys are running around. We're eating ultra processed junk all the time. We eat too much sugars. We drink too much sodas. We it's it's a little harder nowadays to eat good. But what I try to do is only eat foods with one ingredient. And that's like meat, right? Beef, eggs, fish, fruit, veggies, and then healthy fats. Healthy fats are like what's going to be your avocados, your olive oils, good olive oils, not the cheap shit that you get from some of the stores. And then you want to cut down on the sugars, fast food. Try to get rid of fast food if you can. Do some meal prep. Fast food is just horrible. Even from like, a lot of you guys are going to be a little bit older, like in my range, the 50 to 30, 40, 50 years old, maybe 60. And back when we first, when McDonald's was first coming out, and for many years into the 80s, they used beef tallow for in the fries, and now they use some seed oil bullshit. And getting away from that stuff is going to be huge to help you feel better. You have to prioritize protein. It keeps you full. Protein is going to keep you full longer. It helps build the muscle, and it can stabilize, your blood sugars. Good little simple way. I'll give you a couple of simple way to have your meal set up for today. Breakfast, some eggs, fruit, and water. Lunch, we're going to go with some meat, veggies, olive oil. And dinner, protein and carbs. Carbs are like the sweet potatoes or rice, and then some greens, some, like healthy asparagus, broccoli, stuff like that. And here's where your nutrition, you can't exercise yourself out of a shitty nutrition. Does that make sense? So you see a lot of these guys just killing themselves in the gym. And even I think there's even that one guy who hangs from the freaking thing with one arm. He's all ripped up and holding a dumbbell. And he's he talks about eating a donut and all that shit. Yeah, it might work for him. And, I don't even know what the hell he's trying to tell us, but the more shit you eat, the less you're going to be able to look like that guy. So how's a good way of putting it? Don't eat like a little fucking 5-year-old kid. Eat like a grown man. You don't need to have that Lucky fucking Charms cereal or, chips and salsa and chips all day long and your little fruit snack to make you feel good. Right? So now that we talked a little bit about the nutrition, let's talk about the sleep. And why I put sleep was last, not that it's the least important, but why I put sleep the last is because it's super hard to fix that one. That one is not one of those that you just fix overnight. Because if you fix all those other things, you're going to get better sleep. Guarantee you this. I used to be the world's worst sleeper. But like I said, I didn't have any idea about my breath and my hydration. But now that I've fixed those things, I sleep pretty well at night. I always aim for my 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And what I've learned is I set up routines, especially for like going to bed. I try to have my phone off by about 2 hours, 2 hours before I go to bed. No scrolling before that. And then I try to have the TV off about an hour and a half before that. And then I don't eat. Do not eat 3 hours before going to bed, because metabolizing is one of the hardest things that your body does. And if you're still metabolizing the food that you ate, then it's not going to let your body get into that nice restful state. And sleep is where your brain, your muscles, and your hormones, everything recover. Less than 6 hours of sleep, it's going to lower your testosterone. You're going to have more cravings for bad food. You're going to have more mood swings. So like I was saying earlier, right? Think back to what I was trying to fix mood swings. I was trying to fix my anger issues, why I was an asshole, but I never even fixed my sleep, never fixed my hydration, never fixed my breath. I was just trying to use those self-help books to fix that mental, hey, I'm going to tell myself I'm super fucking positive and write down some grateful stuff and then be able to forgive. But my brain wasn't working right. My body wasn't working right. And once I've been able to dial those in, excuse me, once I was able to get those things dialed in, and then my sleep was better. And so now I was sleeping good. My foundation was super solid, right? I have that foundation that's super solid. So building those pillars now on a super solid foundation. So if you think back, and you might have heard this story of the guy who built his house upon the sand and how easy, that was to wash away compared to, I'm going to even take it a little simpler. Think of the freaking Three Little Pigs, right? You had the first little pig who tried to just build a little grass hut, and the wolf came, blew that shit down. The next guy, he had a couple sticks, and he built it with the sticks. It was a little sturdier, so it took the wolf 2 puffs to blow it down. But the last little pig over here, he built that shit on, with bricks, and he was solid foundation. Huff, puff, never blew the house down. So that's kind of what you're doing with building getting those 5 fundamentals super solid in place. You can go through life and keep trying to fix one of those little pillars at a time, trying to, hey, tell yourself you're positive and not get 5 hours of, not even get 5 hours of sleep and not be hydrated and not breathe right, or just don't move and don't eat right. And just, see how far you get. I'm trying to make this super easy for you. And it is not as hard as people make it sound. It takes some discipline, and it takes creating good habits. Um, a good habit, they say it takes about 67 days to totally rewire in a good habit, and about 20, I think it's 27 to 30 some odd days to get rid of a bad habit. So what is one good habit that you can start today? Make it the simplest one, right? If you're not breathing correct, let's work on that breathing. Just start it today. Start breathing through the nose. Do 10 times, do that box. If you're already, good with the breath, concentrate on the hydration. Let's go step by step. And do it in that order. That order is, I do it that way because it's the easiest one, it's the least expensive one, And by fixing those, they just keep on building upon each other, right? You're going to have better workouts when you're able to breathe right and your hydration is good. And then when you're working out well, then your body's going to respond better. So as I was saying, when you're working out and you have your breathing properly and your hydration is proper, your body's going to respond way better to those workouts. And then when you're working out, and then it kind of goes into that flow, and then you're going to want to eat better because you start seeing results. You start seeing, a little muscle there and a little loss of fat. And then we get that loss of fat, and our body's working better, and we're a little more tired at the end of the day because we've done everything we can to have the best day possible, and you're going to start sleeping better. So yeah, message me, let me know if this has helped you out at all. And I'm going to keep putting out this kind of material because I think it's super vital for people to understand how important it is to have these 5 things dialed in. And there is many, many, many studies done that if you get all 5 of these things in, your mortality rate goes down by like 85%, from the 4 or 5 bad things that's out there, the heart attacks, the heart disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, even Alzheimer's. That stuff is kicking people's ass nowadays. But all those lower by getting those 5 things in place. So stop trying to just write your goals and think that all of a sudden you're gonna be fixed. Definitely write your goals, but you have to fix the foundation that you are standing upon, that your whole life is set around, or all that stuff's not going to matter. Because if you get, maybe you reach all your goals, but you haven't ever worked on any of these 5 things, you're probably not going to be very healthy when you get there. And I don't think there's ever been a billionaire on their deathbed saying, damn, I wish I would have worked harder, or I wish I would have done this or that. The only thing they really ever wish they would have done is took better care of themselves and those around them. And you can take better care for those people around you when you're in the best health possible. So, just my opinion, but I want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Legacy Podcast. Thank you.